everybody, we're back, and we will be finishing out episodes 3 to 5. So the end of part 1.
It's good to be back.
Yes.
I dropped the English accent.
Yeah, we decided to drop it for this one because it's a doozy. We got a lot to get through here.
Yeah.
So we can start off with episode 3. So Joe finds all those papers on his wall that now he knows that the Eat the Rich killer knows who he is.
He pastes it. I mean, it's everywhere. He goes in there. I mean, can you imagine coming home and seeing that on your wall?
Nope.
I mean,
especially being him.
It'd be like, oh my gosh, they know everything about me.
Joe looks on the TV and he sees that the police have discovered, or they got sent Malcolm's finger in the mail, and that now they know that he was also murdered along with Simon. So now it's a complete murder investigation about the Eat the Rich killer, and so Joe is obviously freaking out because, you know, whatever's going on, somehow he's connected to it all.
Right, and he's concerned. Obviously, he's going to be caught here.
Yeah.
But he did comment to his student, or that girl, I forget the girl's
Nadia.
name. Nadia. Yeah. She just kind of freaks out a little bit when her classmates are joking about the smell of the finger and all these different things. And she kind of reveals a little bit more that she's closer to this teacher than has been discovered or talked about before.
Yeah, that she and him, it's not clear whether it's an affair or if it's just like an inappropriate student-teacher relationship.
Like infatuation,
yeah.
Sort of. But yeah, but later on, now we move on from that to
the funeral.
The funeral.
The funeral, Joe obviously feels like he doesn't belong. He sees Reese, he sees everyone there. And also there's a moment when he's walking into the funeral where someone bumps into him. And it was just weird, and we don't see the person's face who bumped into him, and it just shows the back of them, and they're walking away. And like I remember mentioning something like, something definitely happened there.
They don't show stuff like that
unless it means something.
I mean, you know, there's obviously had a purpose for it.
Yeah. So then they're done with the funeral, and then Kate goes to a bar, and Joe follows her there, and he's like, "I think you're in danger. One of your friends might be the killer, blah, blah, blah."
Right, because already at the funeral, she had already told him, "Leave me alone, get away from me." And he's like, and in his inner monologue, he's like, "All right, I have to watch her. Something's going to happen." So he goes and talks to her at the bar, and that's when that conversation happens.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's like, "You're in danger. One of your friends might have done something.
Right.
And I want you to be safe." And she's like, "Okay, Captain America."
Yeah.
And then, so she's basically like, "F off." And then maybe she doesn't dismiss him as easily as before, because then she's like, well, after a while, she softens up and she's like, "Okay, well, follow me to this place where me and Malcolm used to go," or something like that. And he's like, "Okay, that's kind of weird." And we see that Vic, the bodyguard, is like hiding in the shadows, just watching them, because he already suspects Joe of being something. Maybe not the Eat the Rich killer, but something's suspicious about him. So then him and Kate, long story short, they end up hooking up, and then Vic sees the whole thing.
He sees him on top of her, and he's like,
yeah, and he's like, "No, not good." He wakes up in her apartment, and he decides to... Oh, also another thing about Nadia. Did we talk about the letter that she wanted him to get? So Nadia wrote Malcolm a letter, and apparently he had it in his house. And Joe sees her outside of his house, like earlier in the day, and was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I have this letter that I wrote him, and I don't want to get involved in the investigation, blah, blah, blah." So he's like, "Okay, sure, I'll get it for you."
Yep.
So he sees that opportunity as soon as he wakes up. He's like, "Well, Kate's asleep. I can just go like look for the letter." So he finally finds it with a bunch of other stuff. And Kate sees him and kicks him out. And
but doesn't he explain it to her at the time, or is it later he explains that?
No, he doesn't. She just wants him to get out, so he doesn't really have time to explain anything. But he gets kicked out, and then he sees Kate leave again and follows her to the crypt where she's going to visit someone.
Right. Well, she's going to visit. That's Malcolm's been. They buried his finger there. Remember, she walks in. She says, "Not even a body, just your finger." how do you bury a finger, something like
Yeah,
that. And then
okay.
she leaves, and that's when
leaves.
Vic shows up.
Yeah, well, no, he was already there.
Oh, okay. Well,
he was hiding out.
Yeah, and then there's an altercation between Joe and
Vic.
and Vic is searching Joe. Did he have a gun? I can't remember if he had a gun or not.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and so he's got Joe on the
Or
ground. He's
some sort of weapon.
Yeah, and he goes through his pockets and finds this ring, and
He
he's like,
finds
"What?"
Malcolm's ring in his
and he
pocket.
thinks immediately that
it
he
was
killed
planted on him.
Yeah, well,
oh,
of course,
well,
we
Joe
know.
thinks it was planted on him.
Flashing back to the bump at the funeral, got that in his pocket. He's like, "There's no way that I don't. That's not mine." You know, I hate to say that's not mine kind of thing, but basically, yes. Then Vic is freaking out, thinking this is the killer.
He's the killer. Yep.
He did it, and then somehow Joe gets the upper hand. I can't remember exactly how he did it.
Yeah.
But he lands up killing Vic.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vic was either going to kill him or turn him in, which neither of those would be good for Joe.
No.
So
No,
it was
no.
realistically the only thing he could do to get out of the situation.
Yeah.
So then he ends up burying Vic with Malcolm.
Yeah. So they show he just dumps him on top of the casket that's already in there, and I guess he
Yeah.
pushed some dirt in. He's like, "Bye."
Yeah.
Conveniently having that right there. To
I
drop
know.
him in.
He's the luckiest person ever. He gets out of every situation unscathed
Yeah,
somehow.
but
Maybe
I
not the
wouldn't
whole
say
thing with his kid,
Well, I
but
wouldn't
like
say unscathed because he's definitely had some emotional, like you said, he had to lose his child over this.
yeah.
But yeah, in this show, the 4 seasons now, where we are looking at somehow he's made it this far. That's why I think something different is going to happen at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody already knows who he is very early on, and what's their motivation? That's one thing about we still don't know what his motivation is. Why is he after him?
So after he disposes of Vic,
Mm-hmm.
then he gets a text from Phoebe saying, "Hey, let's meet at the club, the same club where he had that whole night where he blacked out." And they're all waiting for him, like all of them together. And also 2 police officers walk up to him and were like, "Hey, can we talk to you?" And he's like, "Oh,
Yep.
okay."
And he was blackmailing
Simon.
And because of that, he felt like maybe that was a motivation for murder, which I'd say it is. So, but yeah, that was the part that
I think
happened.
the whole thing was like they both had blackmail on each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were working off each other's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that way he got out of. The cops didn't think he was guilty. Well, I think the cops seemed satisfied with what he said.
With his answers, yeah.
And they
And
left after that point.
they seemed to be satisfied with how he helped the case.
Right, because he did contribute some information that seemed
That's
like he was
seemingly
open about.
true.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
if I was sitting back listening to that, I would have believed it too because
Yeah.
you're making a connection for them. We know that
He's
this other
doing
stuff's
their
gonna,
work for him, basically.
we know this stuff's going to come out about the art because of what they're probably going to talk to Kate to confirm that this blue girl got paid off because she paid her. Well, that's another-
Handsomely.
She gave her what 3,000
3,000
pounds, which is more than $3,000.
Yeah. The cops let him go, and all of the friend group seem fine with him now. It's crazy how fast they flip
swing.
flop
Oh
back
yeah,
and
yeah.
forth.
It's like immediately. Oh, you're bad, and then it's okay.
He's like, "Oh, he's
Yeah.
innocent.
It's,
Okay."
they're so shallow.
Yes, they are.
Unbelievably shallow people.
That's the thing about people in the UK; they're brutally honest, and I love it so much.
But they're not. I don't hear them. Well, yeah, I guess it's just him, but I don't hear them commenting about what the others are wearing.
yeah, no, not as much.
Yeah, but anyway, I
So
just thought that was funny.
So Phoebe is like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, we need to go to my country house to
Yes.
calm down and get away
This
from
is
all
a
this
great
stress."
change of venue. here.
And we're just like, okay,
And I'm sorry, I'm making a connection to Invitation now at this point.
the invitation,
Because
yeah.
it feels like we're waiting for something, horrible
Yeah,
to happen.
well,
but
for
it just
those who
feels
don't
like it's a
know-
contained area.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the invitation is this story about this girl who gets invited back to
English manor.
another English manor, where
right.
she doesn't know what. Obviously, she has no tell about
Yeah,
what's actually going to happen to
They
her.
say as soon as that scene came up, I was like, Haley, this is looking like the
Invitation vibes.
invitation. And they're isolated. The phones don't work. The internet, there's no internet or
Nope.
phones out there.
No technology.
No technology. So Joe is going, well, how are these how are they going to contact me? Because he's waiting for these.
Oh yeah, he's
messages.
waiting for the anonymous messages.
Right,
again.
and he can't get any.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think it's kind of freeing for him because he's like, okay, well, you should look at it as a good thing. You don't have to worry about them saying anything.
Yeah. Roald has been there in the background. This is the episode where we finally get to know the
Right.
relationship between him and Kate, and actually how far or how long they've known each other, how far back.
Yeah. Long
Apparently,
time, turns out.
they went to a high school boarding or
A boarding school.
a boarding school together in America, and he's been obsessed with her ever since.
Yeah.
And Joe finds this out like when they're just talking about it, but then he's like, okay, well obviously Roald is suspect now. So
Yep.
yeah, Joe's kind of taking it on himself like to solve the case.
Right. He
So-
thinks it's his. If he, as he's done in previous seasons, he's,
He's like his own investigator.
But it's interesting that he's kind of in a different situation here. Like he is a detective, and I like that twist. I like changing it up where he's not only trying to defend himself or protect himself, he's trying to figure out who actually did it, so that he can maybe, if something came up, he'd be able to go to the police and say, "Hey, I know
I'm
who it is,"
innocent.
and he can prove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Roald asked Joe or Jonathan if he would like to go for a hunt with him because he has this weird ego thing where he wants to show him like that he loves Kate more, or him and Kate belong together. Like he has this one up on Joe basically. Anyway, they go hunting together. He's like giving him this whole spiel about how him and Kate went to high school together. He's known
Right.
her forever. Like he's been in love with her, blah, blah, blah.
And Joe is saying things like he doesn't like hunting, and this is all in his head. He's like, I'm not going to shoot anything. And then Roald even picks on him because is it a pheasant or
Pheasant
hunting? He obviously he's missing intentionally, but Roald just thinks he's a bad shot. He's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not interested.
So then Roald gets to the point where so Joe misses and then walks a little ahead of him, a little ahead of Roald, and he gets his gun, points it at his back, and
Yes.
Kate sees this.
But
and
wait. We don't see that though.
We don't see
Yeah,
Kate seeing
yeah.
it.
We see the gun come, and he's in front. The gun comes out. We hear a shot, but it's actually Kate shooting in the air in front of them,
Yeah.
which you didn't see her. But it's like we think that he's going to
Kate,
fire.
we think Kate definitely saw
Yeah.
Roald point the gun at Joe and is like, what
and fired
the hell
in the
are
air
you doing?
to like scare him off, and then but Joe never saw the gun pointed at him. I don't think.
No,
Right. And then that scene's over.
it's a paper note.
Yeah, they
slipped under his
yeah,
door.
Right, and so to ask him to come see Phoebe in her room.
Yeah, he
walks-
doesn't know that though.
Yeah,
No, let me
Okay,
finish
okay.
here. So he receives the note and it says, "Meet me in the arms room," and he thinks it's the killer. He doesn't know it's
yes, that's
Phoebe.
right. Yeah, that's
so
right,
he's
that's right.
going in there like prepared to kill, basically, or prepared to do whatever's
defend himself.
necessary.
Yep, yep.
And it's just Phoebe in lingerie trying to hook up with him, and he's
Yeah.
so confused. He's like, "What is going on?"
And I got to tell you, when I'm seeing this too, I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on? Yeah, she's in lingerie. She has all these weird kinds of
Little toys.
Little toys. And then he says something to her to stop it. He said, what's the boyfriend's name? He loves you. So he really
Adam.
loves you. Yeah, Adam, he really loves you. I could never do this. And so she stops, and then they have this heart-to-heart talk, which was really surprising because you kind of find out a little bit more about her and how she feels and how Adam feels, how she thinks Adam feels. And Joe does a very good job of talking himself out of this because, damn, that's trouble. I mean, she is
Yeah.
obviously a nut
Yeah.
to do what she was doing. And then it doesn't end badly. They end in a friendly way. And he goes, and then he's thinking, of course, about what's going on with Adam, what's going on with her, and it becomes. And then there's so many interactions that he has with all these characters. Yeah.
So they all sit down for dinner.
Okay, yeah,
And
okay.
Gemma. So Gemma is another character you don't really know so well until this episode
Right.
when you find out how horrible of a person she is.
Yeah, she is really
and
snarky.
so she's like the bigger blonde one who just treats the help like
Oh yeah. Like,
absolute crap,
it's
like
terrible.
dog crap on your shoe.
yeah,
type
and
of
it's like
thing.
that's scrape that off. I mean,
Yeah.
she's so rude. Although all
She
the,
makes so they're playing croquet.
croquet, yeah.
Croquet.
Right.
And she makes one of them. It's literally like a scene from Alice in Wonderland with the Queen.
Right, you're
With
right.
the
They
cards. You remember?
Yeah, they put
They make him bend
yeah,
over.
Right, they made him bend over where he becomes those little I don't know what they call those things in
The
croquet. It's
like archway.
Yeah, the arch, but it's his body, and they're
Yeah.
hitting the ball through his legs as he's on all
because
fours.
they ran out of those.
Yeah,
so
and
they use him.
You should see the faces of the whatever the kid, come on over, you're going to be, and he's like, oh my gosh. But apparently they're used to being treated this way.
And the worker is looking around like, is anyone going to do anything?
Yeah.
And no one says anything.
Yeah.
And so Kate leaves because she's like, I'm not doing
Yeah,
this.
this is not cool.
And then Joe also leaves. But that was earlier in the day, the croquet thing.
Yeah.
Now we're at dinner, and again, she is treating the help like crap, and just being like, I mean, I don't know, just
she's being
horrible
arrogant
stuff,
and cruel. Yeah.
and just saying how like people like that don't matter, and we're like the best display of people or humanity or something like that.
Oh yeah. She starts saying how we're so much better than everybody
We're
else.
superior,
It
blah
does-
blah blah.
And it's not that it's because we have money and all these other things make us better, and we're like, wait, what?
She's just horrible.
Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah.
And so anyway, that happens, and so Joe's like, I don't like her at all. I mean, he didn't really know her before, but now he's like, what?
Yeah, it's good
the hell?
reason not to like her.
So then he gets done with dinner, and also while they're at dinner, Gemma accuses Joe of being the Eat the Rich killer, and
That's right.
then Roald says like something about Kate, about how she's keeping a huge secret, and it turns out Kate's dad is like a billionaire,
Right.
and he finds all this out in the one night, and is like,
he has a heart-to-heart with her on the side.
Yeah.
Joe does. And finds out, that she had a very bad relationship with her dad. He's a rich guy who tries to control her life. That's why there are all these security people around. We finally find out that. And there's a couple interactions that she has with these security. She's like, get out of here. Get out of the hall. Get away from me.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, and finally that's explained. But then before that is when, what's the blonde chick's name
Phoebe.
again? Phoebe, I'm sorry.
or Gemma. Which one?
The one that is doing the murder mystery.
Phoebe.
Yeah. So, but it's at dinner that she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Phoebe is like, oh, I'm gonna go. Like, she's so cute and obvious.
Yeah.
But she's like, I'm gonna go get some wine or something like that, and leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the, I think it's the butler, the help.
Yes, the only
comes
part
back.
where they actually do it, where he gets a chance to not be picked on.
Yeah. Phoebe's been murdered, blah, blah, blah. So she's trying to set up a murder mystery game for
Right.
everyone.
Which this is where it becomes just like Glass Onion.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are we watching a different version of this film or something? But it's still fun. So she's got an arrow in her too, which is just like
Fake arrow. And he sneaks into Roald's room and finds his camera, and he sees all of these upskirt shots of Kate. And this is when Roald finds him.
Roald finds him in the room.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's turned away looking at the pictures on the camera and is like, what the hell? And then Roald comes in the room and he's like, find anything you like or something
Yeah,
like
but I
that.
thought he already placed the camera back on the shelf.
Maybe he did.
Yeah.
He's looking at something. He doesn't see Roald come into the room.
No.
So Roald appears behind him and is like, what are you doing? Like, did you find anything you like? Or some snarky comment
Yeah.
like that. And so
Snarky
Joe's like,
is a
it's not
very
what
good-
you think. Joe's like, it's not what you think. And the window's open and Roald decides to push him through it.
Yeah, this was great. So, and snarky is the perfect comment about any of these people in this. So yeah, he's up against the window. He gives him a push, and I'm like, he's gonna die. He can't die. He's the star.
Yeah.
So he falls onto the bushes down below.
Yeah, and they're only on the second story.
Yeah, Roald just kind of looks out. I don't know if he looked
Yeah,
out the window.
yeah, he did.
And
He
said,
looks.
"Did
He looks down and then just leaves and doesn't know if Joe is alive or,
Yeah.
or
And
dead.
Joe thinks this is somehow planned. Like, is this part of this thing where he knew I wasn't going to be hurt? Because he landed on
he
these
thinks
bushes.
that he's the killer after all.
Yeah.
No one is really interested because they're all drunk and drugged up,
Mm-hmm.
and Phoebe's kind of disappointed because she wanted to, all of them
Right.
to be invested in the game.
Right, but also because we just had some people murdered.
Like actually murdered.
And
yeah.
then it's like, why would we want to play? I think that's what they said too. Is they were like, wait, why would we do this now after all that's happened? We have two people. Well, wait a minute. Two people that
Two
they
people
know
dead.
of dead. They don't know about Vic yet. And it's like, anyway. So, but then at the end, this is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I think we're rolling to the end.
Joe hears a scream from Kate's room, and he runs all the way up there. And in the scene, it's Gemma on the floor, covered in blood, obviously dead, and Kate is kneeling beside her with a knife in her hand.
Just like this.
And
he's
Joe
like,
is like, oh, good,
man.
another love I have to deal with.
Yeah, and then cut.
And then
that was
that's
the end of
the
that
end of
episode.
episode 4.
And so what a great little cliffhanger. And okay, you see someone who got stabbed, you don't pull the knife out. Okay, we don't know what happened, but with the knife in your hand, and I think
But again, it was a kitchen knife.
yes, kitchen knife, just like the first murder of Malcolm with the big.
And the second one
And
with
the second-
Simon.
That's right.
It's a kitchen knife every time.
Every time.
Yep. So episode 5, Joe is scrambling, trying to figure out what's happening because now he thinks that Kate's the killer because she's literally holding the knife in her hand.
That's not good. Not good.
And Kate's like, Kate gets up, she locks the door. She's like, no one can walk in right now. And then she says this whole thing about how whenever she was raised, like she was raised to deal with stressful situations and not get emotional. And she's like, well, the one time I'm not emotional, it seems like I'm the killer, blah, blah, blah. And he's like,
Yeah, and he's just like another body.
yeah,
to get
another
rid
body
of.
to deal with.
And I mean, she makes a good point. Some people handle stress very well, some people don't, and you don't know until you're in that situation. And
Yeah.
apparently, she's been in that situation before.
So anyway, Kate's like, Joe or Jonathan, please help me. Like, I need to move the body, like so people don't know, like that, or don't think that I'm the killer.
And she is looking at him saying, "You know how to get rid of a body, right?"
Or he's like, can you help
What?
me and all this stuff? And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can help you, but like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And so they put her in this antique box at the front of the bed. And all of a sudden, Phoebe knocks on the door and is like, Kate, like, I need to talk to you about Adam. And Joe
So-
and
Yes.
Kate are in there.
Right.
And Phoebe's like, I don't know what's going on with Adam. I just overheard him talking to one of the servants about how they had a thing together, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's like, I think he has a kink. Like, they're just basically trying to get her out of there.
anything to get her out of there. Now this
And then,
but
yeah.
they're doing this. Oh, aren't they sitting on the box?
No, they're not.
They're-
Phoebe's sitting on the box.
Okay, now there's a
With
scene
Gemma's
from,
body in it.
From then she leaves. Then they pick up the box, and the bottom falls out.
Yeah.
And the body slams to the ground, and they're
Yep.
like, okay.
And they're like, okay, so
So
what's
roll up some
plan
rug,
B?
right?
Yes, and
The-
plan B is to roll up her body in a rug. And it's funny because he's like, okay, so what do we do with the body? Like, we can't carry it through the house. And then he turns to the window and he's like, thanks for the idea, Rold. And they toss the body out of the window while
But not
everyone else
with
is
the rug
partying downstairs.
wrapped around her, right?
Yes, with the rug wrapped
And then there's
around
a shot where they're all talking like this, and back here, flunk, and
Yeah.
no one even notices.
Nope, they're so oblivious.
I know, but it's outside and the window's closed, but still, it's
yeah.
funny.
So
It is
then
funny.
they take her body to the game larder, which is where they gut the animals
Yeah,
that
like when they go hunting and they bring back a deer, whatever, that's where they prep the, they prepare it there.
Yeah. So then they stick Gemma under some like sheets or some sort of, they can't see the body. And then they go back upstairs and they're looking for cleaning supplies for Kate's room, the floor, because
Right.
it's literally covered in blood.
Yeah. Even though they
And-
rolled up the carpet, there's still blood there.
Yes. So then Kate realizes she lost her bracelet. And she's like, and Joe's like, you have got to be kidding me. How did you lose your bracelet?
Yeah.
And it
Uh-huh.
literally has Kate engraved on it.
I know.
So it's like,
could you just have a flashing light saying who did it?
I know. So
And of course, we go back to
and
the
so-
barn.
Of course, Joe, being the chivalrous man that he is like, fine, I'll go get your damn bracelet from the game larder. So
Yeah.
then she goes into her room to clean
up.
up the blood, and Phoebe's in there, and she's like, what's this blood on the floor? And Kate's like, I can explain. This is what happened. Like, it wasn't me. The body was just in my room, and Phoebe's like, okay, hi. So then it turns.
It's like that would be an acceptable thing to say.
Yeah. But then she also says that Jonathan is in the game larder trying to get my bracelet, and Rold is outside the door and hears everything.
That's right. And
When he turns around, Rold is there pointing the gun at him.
Big shotgun.
Big
like, dude.
shotgun.
And this is a flashback. We'll get back to what happened. He pointed a gun at him earlier too.
Yeah. It shows you how little Rold actually cares about people.
Oh, yeah.
The way that he would have just killed
Right.
him.
And he thinks he's just a lower being.
Yeah.
He's not human.
Yeah. Joe is scrambling, trying to find Kate's bracelet. Rold sees him and is pointing the gun at him and is like, come with me right now. And so he goes with him, obviously. And Joe is kneeled in front of all of the people except Kate and Phoebe. Kate and Phoebe are trying to figure out the whole thing with Gemma. I think this is around the same time that when they're talking about everything.
Yeah, but also they're all being so trivial. Like the ones that are sitting on the couch are either too high or drunk, but they're like, I don't know if they're really joking about it, but
they're not taking it seriously.
No, and Joe's down there. He's got a gun in his head from Rold, and they're like almost saying like to kill him.
Yeah, like they wouldn't care either way.
They don't. Yeah, and then they're all like, he's like, what are you talking about? You can't just kill me here.
Yeah, and then they accuse him of all of the deaths. They accuse him of Malcolm's death, Simon's death, and now Gemma's death. And he's like, first of all, with Malcolm, I was blacked out. How would I do that blacked out? Like stab someone. And they don't believe him. Rold is like
itching to pull that trigger. Yeah, he just can't wait to.
And then let's see. And then okay, so the whole thing with Adam and Phoebe was that Phoebe found out about his kink and wanted to fulfill it, and he still kind of felt weird about it. And then Phoebe was like, well, if you can't be your truth self with me, then we don't need to be together, basically. And so Adam is pissed at Joe because he's the one that told Phoebe about the kink.
And
whenever he was trying to get her out of the room with Gemma.
And that's the kink that she no, that's the other thing. Yeah.
Yes, it's the whole other thing.
Yeah. Right.
So then Adam comes and joins them and is like obviously on Rold's side because he's pissed that Joe told Phoebe about, like, he thinks that Joe destroyed him and Phoebe's relationship when in reality it was his fault, but it was just because Joe brought up the whole kink thing.
Right.
And was like, you ruined my relationship, like, let's kill him, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's like, what? Like, what? You're going to kill me about this? And so then Adam tackles him and tries to get physical with him, and then Joe ends up knocking him out, like punching him and knocking him out. And then Rold decides this is the time where he wants to. So yeah, Joe punches Adam and just runs because he knows that was an in for Rold to start, killing him.
Right. So this was his escape, his opportunity to escape.
Yes.
And he runs like hell.
Yeah. And then Rold says something kind of funny. He says, "Let's go peasant hunting instead of pheasant hunting."
Yeah, pheasant. No.
So anyway, Joe is full on sprinting into the forest, and Rold is coming after him with a shotgun. And he's just saying like very creepy things, and Joe is scared for his life and is hiding behind a tree, and he hears Rold come by talking, and he gets behind him. He overpowers him somehow and then knocks him out. Or chokes him out, I believe.
Yeah,
suffocates him.
Yeah.
And
but doesn't. I don't think he kills him. Though.
No, he doesn't kill him. And then Joe is just out of breath on the ground, like trying to process what just happened. And then all of a sudden, Reese shows up, takes the gun, and hits him in the head with the butt of the gun.
Yeah, with the right in the head.
And
where do you wake up? You wake up all tied up.
Yeah.
Both of Rold and Jonathan land up. Joe. Chained up in some kind of
dungeon.
Yeah, little dungeon looking place, and you're like, okay, now what? Well, it gets really crazy from there.
Yeah. So Reese is like, yeah, I'm the killer, surprise. And Joe
big reveal.
Is just like, what?
Haley called it.
Haley called it.
You called it like probably halfway through episode 1.
Okay, Joe and Reese were just too similar.
Yeah.
Like it was
the scene at the bar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way that he understood him to a T, I was like.
In episode 1, if you remember, they're sitting at the bar. This is after Malcolm's murder, but no one knows about the murder yet. And he's going back to the bar after that party. And Reese is talking to him about. He said something like, "You have deep, dark things about you.
You can do dangerous
things." And he's like, what the heck's he talking about?
And he's like, it was just so easy to open up to him and stuff. And I was like, it's not easy for Joe to open up to anyone.
And she called it right then. He's the killer. And I was like, no, I thought it was Phoebe just because it was so obviously not.
Yeah,
her.
it's like the person you would least expect.
Yeah, and that's what I was going with. But she had a good call.
So yes, it cuts to them chained up, and Reese is explaining, well, not really his motivations, but he's just saying like how he feels about that group of people, the rich people, and how he's been like disrespected his whole life, or like not felt like he could fit in and all this stuff. And Joe's like, that doesn't mean you can go around killing people.
Yeah, go
and
ahead
it's
and
so
just
funny
murder
because
everybody.
coming from Joe, it's like,
Bruh.
it's like
That's
you
true.
can't go
You're
around killing people.
Yeah, it's like, wait,
It's like,
how many, what's the body count now
yeah,
for you? Like
so-
20 or something?
No, literally.
Yeah.
And then so Reese gives him an opening to kill Rold, and that will be his like key basically to get him unshackled and out of there. So Reese gives him this opportunity. He's like, okay, either you kill Rold or both of you die. And Joe is trying to wrap his head around this entire thing. But also, while this is all happening, Kate and Phoebe are like, where are Rold and Joe, or Jonathan? And they're all like, Rold, and they're all really high or drunk or something.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all
Wasted.
like, they went to go in the forest. Rold's trying to kill Jonathan. Like, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah, and they're all like, it's okay.
And then they're like, oh yeah, he's like the Eat the Reach killer. Like, it's fine, like whatever. And then Kate's like, what? And so Kate gets her bodyguards involved, and then she also decides to go out and look for them herself. And she grabs an axe, actually. One of them is holding an axe, and she grabs it from her and goes out on a trek of her own. And while that's going on, it cuts back to Joe and Rold, and Joe is trying. So yeah, Reese leaves the room, and then Joe tries to unshackle himself from the restraints.
Yeah.
And Rold is dead asleep, or he's unconscious.
Yeah.
And so while Joe is doing this, Reese comes back in and sees that, first off, Rold isn't dead, and also Joe is trying to escape. And he's like,
He's
okay.
like pounding on his
Yeah.
shackles.
And he's like, okay, obviously you were lying about liking to kill, because if you weren't, then he would already be dead, type of thing.
Right.
Playing him. Yes. So Reese decides to set the dungeon on fire and is like, good luck, bye. If you make it out, I'll see you in London. And Joe's just like, what? And he's like, Reese. And then it cuts back to the fire, and Joe somehow miraculously gets unshackled.
He keeps pounding on the, it's one of those old-fashioned ones with the pins that go through. And I think it's either he rips it off the wall or hits it on the wall repeatedly. And then he gets free.
And the whole room is engulfed in flames at this point.
But he gets free, and he goes to go up the wall to get out.
So yeah, there's a, so everything is either cement or brick, and there's a little grate at the top of the roof of this dungeon. And so he can see out, and but that is also shackled shut. It's locked. So he's just trying to push it with his hands.
Right.
And then Rold wakes up.
But this is what's really interesting, is that he actually does go back to help him.
Yeah.
And
but he was thinking about it.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I like. He's like,
he was like honestly, I don't know if he would have saved him if he didn't break consciousness.
Well, the thing is, because there's no way he could lift him up there. It's impossible. Nope. But he did go back. He helps him break out of the chains.
And then they're both trying to...
And then they help each other.
I think he lifts Rold up, and then Rold is trying to open the grate.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we hear this commotion, and Kate opens up the grate and saves them and lifts both of them out. And then, so yeah, they're good, they're alive, they're safe. And then the whole mansion or manor is engulfed in flames now. At least half of it is destroyed along with Gemma's body.
Right, and so no body to recover. At least they won't be able to, well, they might recover it later, but there's no way they're going to tell. It's going to be completely burned up. And that's the end of the episode, right?
No.
Okay.
So then it cuts back to Joe in London, and Kate goes up to him or goes up to his flat and says, like, well, since all your clothes got burned up in the house, I'll give you some of Malcolm's old ones. And he's like, okay, that's kind of creepy, but thanks. And she invites him out to the pub for a drink, and he has to refuse because he doesn't want to get any deeper than he already is.
No, he doesn't want to do this again.
Yeah, so then he declines her offer. He closes the door, and then he goes back to watching TV. And guess who he sees on TV? None other than Reese.
Reese on TV announcing his mayoral bid. He's going to run for mayor of London.
Yep, exactly.
And how in the world, what's he thinking? I mean, you got to tell me none of this is going to come out? I mean, hey, we're back. Oh, by the way, we didn't die. So you'd think you'd check on that.
Yeah. So yeah, he announces his run for mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and Joe is fuming, and I think he says
So
something along the
unbelievable.
lines of, "I'm not going to let him get away with
Yeah,
this."
yeah. But it wasn't also on the news about the fire at their
Yes,
place. Yeah,
yeah.
they talk about how it got well, mostly gutted, and that there's some people that haven't recovered yet, which is Gemma. Not everyone's accounted for. And then that story comes on. He's like, "Yes, I am. No, I'm going to run it for mayor now." And we're like, "Dude, you got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the end right there, right? He goes,
Yep.
"I'm going to get him back." That ends episode 5, and next will be episode 6 after that little mid-season break, if you want to call it.
At the end of most Netflix shows, they have the little preview of the next episode or the next season or whatever. So in this preview, it shows Love in one of the clips.
Yes, we're like, she's
And
sitting in
we're
a
like,
chair or something.
she's dead. There's no way. There is no way she got out of that.
So if she shows up, Haley and I can be like, what
Unless
the heck?
somehow
Yes,
she
survived
already
the fire.
had the antidote in her or
and
something.
she survived the fire?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And nobody, but it's possible.
But I'm
I mean,
thinking-
these shows are so crazy, it could be possible.
Yeah, I'm just thinking it was a flashback or
Yeah.
something.
yeah,
Because
it's
she was
gotta be.
in the box. She was in it.
Yeah.
From what I saw, it was whenever he had the box decked out as a library.
Right.
So it
yeah,
was like,
yeah. So how would you even...
and she was holding a book. So I was like,
Yeah, I
maybe
don't-
he has that weird thing where he's having flashbacks of
It could be,
people
yeah.
in his head, like dead people, like he had with
I see dead people.
with Beck, and how he had with Candace.
Yeah,
and
he flashes back to all his previous girls that he's killed, women he's killed. But yeah, that was, I remember Haley and I were like, wait, what?
There's
and
no
then we
way.
had to rewind that
But
back
Love
to the trailer.
was like
that was
the
it.
best
Yeah, she
part
was-
of season
yes.
3. Like even though she was crazy, like
Well,
I just
season
loved her.
2 and
And
all
season
of
2.
in season 3.
Yeah. Well, I just think she was at her peak in season 3.
Yeah, she had I mean, she's so fun, and it's so cool to see a match for somebody. Like he
they're
found his
literal
match,
soulmates.
killer match, and that's so funny. All right, so March 9th is when the episodes come out. I checked
Yes,
today.
part 2.
So we hope you get a chance to watch this first. If you've missed any of this, next thing we'll do will be episodes.
Part 2.
Part 2, episodes 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
10.
I believe there's 5 more episodes.
Yeah, there should be. That
Yeah.
would make the most sense.
And so I want predictions, Haley. What do you
yeah,
think?
so let's see. So
Well,
obviously,
obviously Joe's going to survive.
yeah,
he always
Joe's
does.
gonna survive.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Marianne is gonna come back into the mix
And have something to
and
do,
have
yeah.
something to do with it, or Reese is gonna bring Marianne back into his life. Like maybe he's gonna hire her as an artist for his run or something for the election.
Oh,
or,
yeah. That would be an interesting connection. That all of a
Yeah.
sudden she's there. Whoa, okay. But what
I
about...
don't, I'm not so worried about the assassin PI guy that much. I don't think he would come back.
I mean, it's weird to introduce a character, only have them in briefly, and they're gone. To me, it seems like it's possible. But also, like you pointed out before, no one mentioned his baby. And how, if you know all this stuff about Joe, how could you not know about the baby, about his son?
Yeah.
And no one's, I don't remember any, I mean, that would have been like,
No,
and
no
your
one's
son.
brought it up. I mean,
No.
he brought it up when he was talking to Kate about like his past with his ex-wife and stuff like that, and like whenever she was accusing him of being the killer and all that. And he mentioned that he had a kid, but he didn't mention anything else besides that. Didn't even mention his name.
And you'd think this killer would be pointing that out. So,
Yeah.
anyway, Joe is so likably terrible. I don't even know how to describe
He's redeemably unredeemable.
it. Exactly. But it's very entertaining.
Well, I didn't ask your predictions. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you've been calling it so good. I know Joe's going to survive. He's going to kill Reese. Or maybe they're going to team up. I'm just thinking that because they're
It
so
does,
alike.
Okay, yeah. From the preview, it shows them working together. I don't know on what,
Yeah.
but they're in the same room.
Yeah, I just think it's possible they could team up because they're both
They
psychos.
both have some dirt under their belt. So
and it's like maybe he needs Joe to help him cover up what he's. Okay, he's going to be mayor. I'm guessing that Reese has some past that he's trying to cover up.
yes,
Makes sense.
because
so
they
bring
both
in
both grew up similarly.
Yeah.
That's why they have such
right. So bring in
connection.
somebody who can help you cover those things up.
who has experience
hiding
years
bodies,
and years of experience,
figuring out things. So I mean, that's just my guess. But again, that's what I like about the show. It's so unique and fun.
Yep.
There's twists and surprises that I'm like, there's no way. Oh my gosh, yes, that's it. Okay, so that's my guess. They're going to team up, and maybe season 5 is them teamed up.
Against Love.
Could be. Why not?
That would be crazy.
That'd be
There's no way she's alive. Absolutely
I know,
no
I know.
way.
But hey, it's a show. It's a TV show,
I mean, I think even Marianne coming back is crazy. But Love coming back, there's no way in hell.
Wait, you might be eating
I might
your
be
words.
wrong. I might be wrong. I don't
All right.
know.
We'll see. Okay.
Yeah, so thanks for watching and
Thank you.
listening. I'll be back with part 2 of season 4. So signing out.
Signing out.